Here we are in the World War II exhibit again. Now we're on the aircraft carrier side of the house. And in this display, we have several of the primary aircraft that took part in carrier warfare in World War II. We've got several of our own fighters down on the floor, but above it, we have something that's truly special. This is the museum's A6M7. It's without a doubt the most iconic Japanese aircraft of the war. It's an aircraft that we first became aware of over Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. Through the war years, they built quite a few of these, almost 1,000. If you were an American fighting in the Pacific, the chances are every time a Japanese plane flew over, the call was, "There goes a zero." We have tens of thousands of combat reports during the war where this was such an iconic aircraft that pretty much any Japanese aircraft that was witnessed would be claimed to be a zero. Now, our zero is interesting. It's a captured aircraft, and along with the airframe came an interesting set of stories, either legends or myths have grown up about this particular airplane and how it came into our possession. We do know it was assigned to the Yokosuka Air Wing. That's a Navy base in Japan that's located on the Tokyo Bay. Our forces, when they came ashore to conduct the surrender ceremonies and to take over the occupation of Japan, during that process, this is one of many aircraft that we captured. It's a very late war zero, so it has a lot of features on it that other examples that we'd previously captured didn't have. So we brought this home. We wanted to keep it as a flyable example. However, at some point, someone took a chainsaw to it. It was cut up pretty badly. Our museum got it in the early 80s, and we put it on display in 1984. We've had several high-profile visitors come all the way from Japan to see our Zero. It does belong to the Air and Space Museum in Washington, but we're very proud and very happy to be able to display it for them. We have an interesting situation where 2 days a year, a shaft of light, a single shaft of light will make it all the way to the cockpit and shine on the pilot's face. Around here we call it Zero Hinge. It's just one of the interesting things that happens with the museum. In air combat, the only statistic that truly matters is how many enemy aircraft you destroy versus how many aircraft are lost. And the Japanese Zero, when it came out, it was such a surprise to us. It's built to a different standard from anything that we thought we'd be facing when the war first broke out. The truth is that they pretty much had their way with our aircraft. Even though the Wildcat was far heavier armed and much better armored, it suffered a lot. It's one of the few aircraft on our side that struggled to keep a positive kill to loss ratio. And in a couple of battles, we basically, we didn't lay a glove on them. They came and essentially slaughtered a lot of our forces at the Battle of Midway. They were predominantly responsible for the loss of our torpedo planes that day. In some cases, every aircraft in the squadron was wiped out by the effectiveness of these Japanese fighters. They were armed with cannons, they were armed with machine guns, so they could pretty much handle bombers, fighters, anything they needed to. The only negative to this aircraft was the designers never contemplated having to maneuver higher than 300 knots. So one of the first examples that was ever captured from a lieutenant named Koga, that aircraft was brought here to San Diego, and over a period of months, it was extensively tested here in the skies right over San Diego. We got a good view of the Japanese Zero during those months. And during that time, our pilots, in fact, on the first flight, discovered that above 300 knots, this aircraft can't maneuver. It can't make a radical turn left or right. So from that day on, our fighter pilots knew the way to escape a Japanese Zero is to dive, build up your speed, and they wouldn't be able to maneuver to catch you. The problem is that means that there's a Zero behind you. So it kind of told more about the situation than maybe it looks like on the outside. Exceptionally good aircraft, but like all fighter aircraft, The edge that it enjoyed when it was first created didn't last very long. And by 1943, we had much more capable fighters, and we were handling the Zeros pretty effectively. By 1945, it's still possible to run into a Japanese Zero over the skies of Japan, but the chances were pretty good that it was going to be employed as a kamikaze by that point in the war. So that's our Japanese Zero.